Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Today we have a very interesting problem, and the problem is actually not complex. That's why it's so interesting. The problem is extremely simple, but it seems to be extremely difficult to convey. I know I took a while to even understand the problem. So, to get it done, or to solve it. That's why I decided to solve it, record a video of solving it, because it's interesting, or at least I think it's interesting. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna bootstrap a application, the CakePHP application. Composer, create project, CakePHP app, and we're gonna call it whatever, calculation. Doesn't really matter. This will pull the CakePHP framework and just kind of bootstrap us. Okay, we have our application. Now let's open it. Okay, that was painful because my directory wouldn't show up. Okay, first thing, we need to wait for the project to index. Okay, this took forever, even though I have SSD on this computer, but it's pretty old computer, so. Okay, first thing, let's rename PHP unit XML.this to PHP unit XML. Next, let's get our configuration. CLI interpreter. As you can see, I'm using PHP 7.4. This is probably not what you would be using. The reason for that is I just don't care for this particular case. But PHP 7 is no longer supported, so don't use PHP 7, especially if you're PCI compliant. And let's run, and the framework exited. Okay, so in our bootstrap, let's just get rid of the migrator, so we don't have to set up the database. Okay, all tests passed. We have some deprecation warnings. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, we only have a stack trace, not the error. That's fine. All the tests passed, so we have working application without database, but we don't need a database. And truth be told, for the majority of unit testing, you probably shouldn't be using database anyway. And normally, or the best approach is to just mock all your persistence, because you're not testing the persistence, you're testing the code, you're testing the logic. So let's create a controller. So we're gonna do PHP bin. But first let's get into our calculation. PHP bin cake.php bake controller. We'll call it calculation controller. Calculation controller, calculation controller test. These are the two files we're gonna need. All the generated code, we don't need it. And we're gonna use, we're gonna need routes. Let's clean up over here. Clean up over here. So the fallback routes, if you leave this line in, that will allow you to use, to not worry, basically not worry about the routes. It's slash controller name slash action name, and you know, the router will find it. And not recommended by me. I say every route should be explicit and every route should be named. But you know, that's just my opinion. Actually, based on my experience. We don't need fixtures, and we don't need all these stubbed tests. So we have our controller, we have our routes. So what we need to do is test the calculation. Basically, the problem is very simple. We have certain thresholds, and based on those thresholds, we calculate a fee. The threshold refers to the product price. So there are two ways of approaching this, or two ways of using it. It's either incremental or aggregate. I'll show it to you. It'll be really simple once you let me explain, and then you'll see how simple it is, and my explanation makes 0 sense. That's at least how I felt. So you are giving a price of the product, and then depending on the strategy, either aggregate or incremental, you estimate or you add up the fees for that product, and based on its price, obviously. And those thresholds are configured by the operator. So we're going to use few known cases just to test the calculation, right? So first, let's build a route which will be post. The template will be calculate. Controller will be calculation, and the action calculate, and the route will be called calculate. Okay, we have a route. Now let's add this action. We're gonna set auto render to false. That means the template will not be, whatever template is set by default for the application, it will not be used. And we're gonna return this response, but with string body, and string body will be JSON. Let's say this action will return JSON. Actually, it'll be easier to work with if we work with JSON, but it doesn't really matter, because what we're testing is not the network layer or controllers or anything. We are gonna create a service that I can just use in the application that it is gonna be used at. So this whole layer around it is just to allow us to quickly test it. We're gonna return JSON, and now let's call it result. Why not? And our result is an array, and for now we're just gonna mock it. So this is the price that we received, and a fee that will be calculated for this purchase. So that's that. Now let's see if it works. Test calculate calculation endpoint returns JSON. So, Oh, and point. Yeah, I do that a lot. So first, we're gonna do this get to load routes, right? The nasty workaround. Then our URL will be router URL. We named our route, so we don't need the template. We could use the actual template, but template is always a subject to change. And we called it calculation. That's a route. Now our payload will be an array, doesn't matter. It can be JSON. It can be, if we use an array, it'll be regular post form data. If we use JSON, we gotta load the request body. In any case, it really doesn't matter. That's not part of what we're solving here, so it really doesn't matter how we solve this. We want to give it a price, and in this case we're gonna do 0. And this post to our URL, and we're posting payload. And we want to assert response. Okay, then we want to grab the response, get body, get contents, and that's our raw response. So this will be raw JSON, right? And we want to assert not empty raw response. So if this test passes, we know we're good at this point. This test will not pass, and I will tell you why. So first problem that we have is that a route calculation. Did I call it calculation, or I called it something else? Oh, I called it calculate, not calculation. So that's problem number 1. I did not expect this problem. Calculate. So that's problem number 1. Problem number 2 is the missing or incorrect cross-site request forgery cookie. And that is because this is post. By default, CSRF will be attached to everything that you post data in. We can disable the middleware, CSRF middleware, because we don't need it, or we can just do this, what was it called? Token, something with token, enable CRF token. Yes. So that resolves the problem with cross-site request forgery. Now, what we have is a string is empty, and it shouldn't be empty. The reason for that, normally when you call get contents, it usually will give you the contents of the body. But if you go to documentation of that method, it says it returns the remaining contents of a string. Which means before we call get contents, we need to rewind, because at this point we did post over here. So the framework naturally read the response body. So our pointer is at the end of the string. So we just need to rewind. So this response get body rewind, and run it now, and it passes. So now we know that we're returning the nice response from our endpoint. Let's see it. There you go. Price 0, fee 0. That is it. Oh, there. Now we want to use let's do this. We're gonna do new directory. We're gonna call it services. In the services, we're gonna create a class, and that will be calculation service. Doesn't really matter what it's called. We're gonna do private static this will be called fee map. That will be our fee map that will mock, right? Because normally this would be something that is stored in the persistence in the database. It doesn't really matter in our case. So we'll be able to do public static set fee map. Oh, wrong language. This is PHP. So self fee map is fee map. Right, so we can just quickly set the fee map. And we're gonna have public. Do we need it everything to be static? Or do we instantiate it in the services as a shared service? Well, let's keep it static. So we're gonna have another static function or method. It's my pet peeve of mine, personal pet peeve, when people call methods functions. And yeah, keyword is function. So yeah, that's where the confusion comes from. But if it's in the context of a class, it's not a function, it's a method. Tiny difference, but very significant difference, actually. Now, we want to calculate fee, so we're gonna accept int price. We're using ints for price because we're using cents, so we don't have to worry about floating point math. Price, and that's it. And it returns integer, which is the fee. So now, the fee map, how is the fee map gonna look like? We'll see. So for now, let's return the 0 here, just so it works. Then in our controller, let's grab a price is this get request get data price. Is that what I called it? Yes. But now let's switch it to $10, so we don't have division by 0 or anything like that. Then we return price, and the fee can stay 0. Actually, fee doesn't have to stay 0. We'll call calculation service, calculate fee for the price, like so. So now the test can assert equals that our price that we send, so payload price equals to what we got from the response. So decoded response is JSON decode raw response, and let's have it as associative array. Decoded response, not fee, price. So we're just asserting kind of a sanity check that the price we submitted is the price we got back. It did not pass because we got 500. We got 500 because why did we get 500? Let's see if we're making it here. And there, the exception is argument 1 passed must be an int string given. Okay, we have strict types, so in our calculation controller we need to just convert this to int, and that should do it. There you go. Yeah, because we declare strict types here. By default, strict types will be declared when you bake your controller in CakePHP 4. So now we want to do some testing. So this is all good. Now let's create another test. So test fee calculation case 1. Why not? We're gonna need all this, and this. Yeah, pretty much all this stuff. So this could go into abstraction because we're just kind of copy pasting. Actually, let's do that. Let's extract it to the method, local method. Yeah. Yep. Okay. And get raw response, we want to int price. We need to be able to control the price. So 1000 here and 1000 here. Right, so this test should still pass. There you go. And we have another test here. So first let's do $10. But before we do $10, we're gonna mock our map. So price or fee map. And now this is where it's gonna explain everything to you. So for 0, we're gonna do 99 cents. For above $10, we're gonna do $1. $1. For 20, we're gonna do $1 and a quarter. Right, so this is our fee map. So now we forgot about one condition though. So if our product is $10, let's do above $10, because it kind of depends how we're gonna treat those thresholds. Like, do you have to be above threshold or at the threshold? That could be configurable. Yeah, it doesn't have to be, as long as it's documented so the user knows how to use it. It can work either way. So we'll do $10. Oh, and actually let's keep it in integers everywhere. So $10 give us $1 fee. If it's aggregate, then our fee is going to be $1.99 because the base fee is here as well. And we're gonna do calculation service set fee map. So this is the fee map that will be used on this line here, and we'll get the response based on that. So we decode the body here. We actually could have just not returned raw response, but instead we can return a decoded response. So we'll save one line. JSON decode. So that'll save us one line of code. Not that it matters too much, but so raw response will be decoded response, and we don't really need to assert this over here because we have another test over here that asserts just that. So this can go away, and this will be called decoded response, and we can assert that decoded response is not empty. Let's run the test again after this change, and we messed something up. Return value of gone. Oh, okay. We return array, not string anymore. Okay, so this works now. Let's run a calculation test. This test didn't really perform much. Our decoded response, so our fee is decoded response fee, right? And our fee in this case, we say that it should be $1.99. $1.99 and fee. And the message, I always like to put the message so I know what exactly went wrong, because otherwise, if this fails now, let me show you. And when this fails, it'll just tell you that expected $1.99 and 0 found, right? It does tell you something, but if you just add a message, the fee has not been calculated correctly, expected $1.99, something like that. So now when you see this this test failing in the pipeline somewhere, you see this message, so you know where the problem is. Before, you just see that, well, this assertion failed. Where is that assertion? Line 38 in controller test, right? And then you need to read the code above it to see what it was asserting and why is it not correct, right? It's just a good habit to have. So our test is failing because our calculation service just returns 0. So now, how do we get this done? My first idea, we're not going to worry about efficiency just yet. We will try to make the code a little more efficient, but this is not exactly this kind of challenge. And if you're after efficiency, PHP is probably not the language you use. So let's iterate over our fee map as so this will be, let's call it level and fee. Second argument is let's call it method. So aggregate will be 1 and increment will be 2. All right, by default we're gonna do aggregate. So aggregate means that we need to add up all the fees that came before. Increment will just return the fee that matches price level. Simple enough. So fee will start with 0. So we're doing it for aggregate, so we're not even checking the method yet. We'll modify the method, it will modify the code to support second method. So our fee is 0, and our fee will be going up as long as the level is below or equals to the price. So if fee, because I got, okay, result fee. If fee is less or equal price, result fee plus equals fee. Simple as that. And just to terminate, if because I don't want to do else, right? I'm that kind of coder that never uses else. I prefer to do 2 ifs and preferably just structure my code that I don't need to use else. In this case we could use else, but we're just gonna do if fee is higher than price, because they should be arranged, right? So we can just terminate here, right? We can terminate the loop, but this will not work if our fees are not sorted in the map, and we'll test that scenario then. So for now this is hidden bug, right? Just for the sake of efficiency, we're introducing a bug. Return result fees. So now this test, it's still not passing. What did we, 324. I did not expect that. How did that happen? Okay, because it also calculated this one. Yeah. So it added up all the fees. It should add only the first 2, because we used fee instead of level. That's why. And here again, if level is higher than price, we terminate here. Now it passes. So now we have a test case over here. So let's start playing around with test cases. We will refactor this, extract a method which will be get fee. Sure. Alright, so now we have just 3 lines of code. The prep for the test, it's or the fetching the data and everything that we need to assert, and assertion. That's how I like my tests to be if I have multiple test cases. First, let's confirm that it works after refactoring. It does. So now let's just duplicate this one, and we want case 2. They should be named differently, not case 1, case 2, case 3, But in this case, we just well, we'll see. Maybe we'll just rename it. Okay, so now let's do for free products, it'll be 0, right? Then the next threshold will be at $10, where we calculate $1. At $2, we're calculating 125, and let's do $50. We're calculating $2, something like that. And our fee map, hang on, I messed up because I didn't include price. Kinda important. Yeah, I copied the test a bit too early. Let's run it again. After refactor, still works. So now let's get our price to be $51, right? So we should add up all the fees. So all the fees will be to $4.25. This it should be. Oh, but the wrong test. This one. Yep. So it works this way. And now let's break it. Calculation with messed up map. Messed up map will be, first we do the $, 0 will be at the end. I completely messed up. Actually, I just reversed it, so let's keep it that. So this is exactly the same case as previous, but the map is messed up. Oh, and it still worked. Oh, right, it still worked because my price is higher than anything in the map. So we want $4. So we should only calculate this one and this one, not this one. So we're expecting $2.25. And this should fail because of our, oh, it still didn't fail. Let's review the code. Don't you, is it actually did I run the right test? Yeah. Don't you hate it when something works and you don't know why? It's even worse than something doesn't work and you don't know why. If level is higher than the price, oh, okay, I know why. Because we first calculate the, yeah, so that is why. No, that is not why. You know what? Let's just step through it, because this is intriguing. So our first level is 2000. Oh, let me review the map again. Right, because last one is 2000. That's why it works. Okay, so this will not work. Okay, now I see it. Now I see it. We didn't need to step through. Now it failed. Yeah, we calculated actual 0. We calculated 0 because first level was $5. It didn't match, so we didn't add the fee, and we expect that we are at the end because this is high number, so it should be at the end of the map, and we break over here. So now if we remove that efficiency improvement, the bug is resolved. Often bugs result from improvements to efficiency, because, well, let's face it, coding is not that easy. You gotta consider a lot of stuff. So this was aggregate, but now if we calculate in a incremental, and let's actually do that. So if actually we don't need to do that here, we can do that here. So if method is incremental, right, we just return the fee, right? We found the one that matches. No, that's not gonna work. No, that's not gonna work. Because you see, here's the interesting issue with this. So this works perfectly as aggregate, but now let's consider our map again. Now my product, let's do another case. Calculation with incremental method. So now our product price is $4, right? Let's actually revert the map to what we would expect it to be, right? 0, $10, $20, $5, $50. And our price is $4, $40, right? So we expect the fee to be $1.25, right? Does that make sense? $1.25 should be the fee. And let's in the controller, now let's do this. So it's we're gonna have to do it this way, so I don't have to refactor code to include this extra argument here. So we have a method, but we're just gonna use this public static int method equals yeah, we can self aggregate. So that's our default method, and we're just gonna use instead of this method, we're gonna use the self method. So if self method is self aggregate default, we're just adding the fee to result fee. And we're gonna introduce another variable which will be called incremental fee. So it doesn't matter if this is initialized or not, because if the method is self increment, so now we don't aggregate. We're not aggregating the fees. We're just picking one. So this one fits, right? And again, it's gonna matter whether the map is properly arranged. But we don't want that. We don't want that requirement. The map should be all over the place, because suppose we write it to the database and we just remove one and then add another one, different one that should be in the, in the middle somewhere. So either we would have to always sort it by the level, when we fetch it from the database, or just sort the array after we fetch it from the database. We don't want that requirement. It's really not necessary. So let's not keep that requirement. So to not keep that requirement, we need one more variable, which will be last matched level. It's gonna start with 0 because 0 will always match, even if it's a free product. So we know that the level is less or equal the price. So the price is higher than or equals to the level, which means that level applies. So first, we want to get the highest level. So if our level is less than last matched level, oh come on, we just continue. We don't want to do anything. If it is, then our incremental fee will be our fee. That way we're gonna match the highest fee that we found that still matches the price. Alright, and now well, there's so many ifs. We can work on that, but for now let's make it work. So only if the self method is self aggregate, we want to return this one. Otherwise, we return the incremental fee. So now, is it gonna work? Let's run. Let's run. Yeah, get fee calculation with incremental fee. So our what do you call it? The calculation service. We're gonna set the method to increment in this case, right? And in all the other tests, we need to set it to aggregate, so we don't rely on context. Because right now, if this last test runs before the other tests will fail, because our calculation method will be wrong, and the expectation of the test is to have aggregation method. Now and this doesn't really matter. So let's, in that case, let's run the whole suite and see how many tests fail. The last one failed. Yeah. And we got 0. Okay, so let's just run this one and see what's going on. Without xdebug yet, first let's see if we can figure out why it doesn't work. So our method is increment, right? We matched the price level. First one is 0. Oh, I see the problem. Yeah. Last there, we didn't set the fee for the last, but that might not have been the only problem. Let's see if it works now. It still doesn't work. And is it 0? Yeah, it's still 0. So it's still doesn't work. Okay, let's save ourselves some time and let's just step through it. So this matches 0, and oh no, this is price 4,000. I mean $40. Oh no, our price is $40. Level is 0. So we are increment. We are not increment. Oh, okay. This was actually nothing wrong with my code. It's just oops. It's this. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, on the logic level there was nothing wrong with the code, and now it works. So it did work before. So the only problem that I had over here is that I forgot to put the last matched level to set it if we do match. And well, yeah, I used this method, so yeah, that doesn't work. Now let's spice it up a bit. So this is $4, $5. Let's do $3, and actually let's do a second case for this with incremental method 2. Doesn't matter. Let's introduce $3 level, which will be $1.75. So our $3 level should now take over 75. So this expects, yep, and it still works. Okay, I can't really think of any more fringe cases. Oh, actually, we did not, yeah, we didn't test this one. And let's do 1000 here, and 3 will be at the end. Let's test this. Yeah. Okay, so the arrangement doesn't seem to have any effect, which is what, oh, okay, so we found an issue. When it was this way, it worked. Yeah, but this way, it doesn't work. Okay, we found a fringe case. Awesome. We calculated $1, which is this one. And the fee is lower. So our fee, last applied fee didn't do, last matched level didn't do its job. Because last matched level, again, we did fee instead of level. Because we are not matching the highest fee, we're matching the highest level. And now, so that was lucky. So this would have been a bug. This would have been a nasty bug, because you can see how only sometimes you will find that it doesn't work. This is see how important it is to devise proper tests to actually test every case. It's extremely important. And this would have been buggy code. But what do we have now? We have our calculation service, which has only one method to calculate fee, and it doesn't actually accept this, so this will be statically set at the moment, at least. Let's test our entire suite. Actually, all the tests. Let's see if we broke anything in the Cake application. Yeah, we broke something. Oh yeah, but that's due to removing the stuff from the controller and from the routes. Yeah, so that's to be expected. Yeah, because it expects the home page and all that stuff, so that doesn't really matter. But we have just one method with one argument, and unfortunately this is not the best approach, this is not the best solution, and this is not the best practice to do it this way, because everything that this calculate fee method needs should be provided in the arguments, right? The only reason I did all this now is to make the tests easier, right? But this should definitely have everything in the arguments. But we solved the problem in 21 lines of code. It's a lot. It's a lot. It can be, well, I'll leave this to you as a challenge if you want to make this into 6 lines of code. I'm pretty sure I can turn it into even 4 lines of code, but maybe that wouldn't be too fair, because some of this stuff can just be I don't know, we don't need this these aggregates. Yeah, there's plenty of room for improvement, but technically this works perfectly. So as you can see, extremely simple concept of grabbing the fee based on the map in 2 different methods. But imagine when I received the requirements for this, I spent hours trying to understand what it is. And obviously when you accept requirements, when you receive requirements, they're usually written in a business kind of language. So there are, I don't remember, but there are like plenty of words that I know in my profession, but they mean something completely different in the business language. So that's, you know, the problem number one, the obstacle number one. But then even to understand the business lingo and transform it into this is the challenge. This is the actual challenge, because this is not a coding challenge. If I gave you this challenge on a coding interview, you would have aced it, no problem. But if I gave you the product requirements that I received to get this done, I don't think, unless you're like way better than I am, you know, which is possible. But this was a very challenging thing. The only reason I understood that is that I requested a long meeting with the product people to explain to me all the background and examples and everything. Then I started drawing examples and stuff just so I can build it in my head. And that's the only reason I got this. I understood this. I did not from the product requirements. But that's the fun of this profession. I love it. I don't know about you guys, but I definitely love challenges like that. And now this I pretty much will just copy this class into the target project where it needs to go, and we just need to build the stuff around it. But this is basically how it's supposed to work. I'm not sure about the whether they will want the configuration to switch between aggregates and incrementals, because if you introduce something like that, then you have to explain it to the client how it works, and so from what I gathered so far, the business rather prefers to do some rigid design, so there's less documentation necessary, and sometimes including those tiny switches and tick boxes and select boxes to modify the behavior of the algorithm. Sometimes it just works against. It just becomes confusing, and clients just don't want to use it because they're confused by it. So sometimes it's better to just keep it simple and even make it more rigid, hard-coded, a lot of stuff. Like in this case, maybe the aggregate will be, or the increment will be the one that we will hard code, because maybe that'll be easier for the client to understand that, for this price level, this is the fee, and for this is the fee. In aggregate, in all matching, this price level will be added up. Then the client is kind of forced to do some math while working on this, right? So, some considerations there. But I wanted a solution that supports both cases. And this is it. This is it. Alrighty, fellas. I hope you found this at least entertaining, or maybe you learned something about CakePHP. CakePHP is a great framework. I recommend it. Not because the framework is so awesome, but because of the community that stands behind the framework. Laravel, I have... there are obvious advantages of using Laravel, and I'm not gonna persuade you to go one way or the other. But what I found in Laravel, well, first of all, you don't need to play with the configuration after you set up the framework. It kind of comes ready to be used out of the box. The tests with the database, SQLite database, will work. You can even hook up very quickly the cache and use cache in your unit tests. So that is great, but I have a lot of architectural concerns when it comes to framework itself. It's very difficult to work on the framework itself, efficiency concerns, because once, if your mantra is that you want to write readable, sexy code, that kind of takes a hit when you're hit with the efficiency issues, and then you have no choice but write non-sexy code and not readable code, because efficiency matters, right? And eventually you're gonna hit that, regardless of how big the application is. Eventually you're gonna hit the efficiency problems. And the community. Well, first of all, there's like plenty of resources for Laravel. So usually when you have any kind of problem on Laravel, you just type it in Google, and the first result will be the perfect answer to your questions. With CakePHP, it's not exactly that, because the community is much smaller than the Laravel community. But for that reason, the CakePHP community is very open, welcoming, very smart people behind that framework. In Laravel community, it's like everybody has 10,000 different ideas, and there's no common ground in that community. Like, everybody thinks their way is right, and you should write this way and not that way, and everybody will, well, not everybody, but there's plenty of people that'll make sure to be a dick about it. I don't see that in CakePHP. That's why I use CakePHP, because I just support the community, I support the project. But again, I'm not gonna defend the obvious flaws of CakePHP, and we've touched on a few of them, like loading routes, the migration not working out of the box, the CSRF token being applied throughout the application, even for the API routes. There's a bug. You can actually find it, because I was the one who reported that bug in the database when you have two models that reference one another, and I don't remember what the condition was. Something with the name, basically there's a bug, but it's not going to be fixed, because it's a really fringe case, and to fix it, it's not that easy. So for now, my post is still as not sure what to do with it. But yeah, there are some obvious problems with CakePHP, but it's probably nothing that will bother you. I've written big applications on CakePHP and small applications. This one constitutes a tiny application, but you can see how quickly you can get started with CakePHP, and it has the same. In Laravel we have artisan. Here we have the baking. The migrations is the same. I prefer how the database works is treated in CakePHP, meaning that when you bake an model, it bakes the table class for you, the entity, and obviously the test. I like how it is designed when it comes to operating on the database. I didn't like CakePHP 2 or even 3, but in 4 and 5 is almost out now. It works great. I love it. And again, my main argument is the community. If you are into if you don't want any drama, then go with CakePHP. If you don't mind drama, definitely go with Laravel. And I understand that so many companies now and for the past few years actually just kind of advertise that we want Laravel developer, right? Which in my view means that you want me to work on the Laravel framework, or you want me to work on your application using Laravel framework. And the way the one thing that really bothers me about Laravel is how rapid the development is, and they literally just run breaking some eggs, sometimes chasing efficiency. Like a couple years ago, the introduction of Roadrunner or Swool allows you to kind of run your application in a different manner than normally in PHP applications run. Meaning the request starts, you have clean environment, you do your thing, and the request ends, you return the response, and your PHP instance terminates, and then the new request instantiates a new instance of your application. Using those tools, the application stays in. So if you have, like in our case over here, static properties in the class, if you set it in one request, it'll be still set for another request and every consecutive request. So it's like a completely different coding paradigm, right? Something that you've learned over the decades in PHP suddenly changes, right? And it becomes like an application in C# or Java server pages or whatever. It's constantly running on the back end, and you just change it. If this request changed the state, then that state will remain for all the subsequent requests. It's a completely different paradigm, and I see how they struggled with it. One commit most notably showed that something that was injected via constructor for the past 10 years, suddenly you have a set application, right? Static setter to set application, because it's required, because now you need to reset that application, because the constructor no longer means anything, because it may have been constructed long ago and now the state has changed, right? So you need to be able to set the application. I found that I would not agree with, if I were a manager of that project or tech lead or someone who gets to say whether we do something this way or not, I would disagree with this approach completely. Yeah, I would find something, some kind of method of decorating, extending, I don't know, something that would not modify the core behavior of the application that has been that way. This dependency injection has been that way for decades, and now we're suddenly changing it so we can use this library that probably only a fraction of our users will ever want or need to use, because we're talking like completely changing the way PHP works. It's well, anyways, that is my rant about Laravel versus CakePHP, and maybe next time I'll just do the same thing, maybe not the same thing, but the different project in Laravel. And I spent many hours working with Laravel, so it's not like I think the framework is awful or whatever. It's definitely, I recommend both. Right? Alrighty, guys. Thank you very much for watching, and have a lovely day.